Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live session of Let's Talk About Posture. My name is Richard, and I'm here with Margaret Martin, who's the key talent here and the knowledge base for all things posture and more, of course. So what we'll do is I'll first start actually by looking at the comments that have come in. So let's see what we got here. Find out where people are coming from. Lily from Toronto. So far, I think we have a couple hundred people on. So glad to be here from Glendale, Arizona. Welcome, Jane. I've seen you in the
I'd like
past.
to be in Glendale right now. Yeah.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, better than here. And from Texas, Tony's from Texas. Welcome. Ginger from Brooklyn. Jenny from San Diego. Hi, Jenny. Oh, Jeannie, excuse me. We've seen you with a friend of ours from the past. Mary McCall from Toronto. Judy from Philadelphia.
I don't think we're going to be able to say hi to everybody.
I'm going to try a few there, Margaret. So, just give me some. Here's Donna from Manhattan. Cindy from Victoria, BC. Hi, Cindy. Hope you're having nice weather out there. A few Canadians from Nancy from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And Kitty says hi to everyone. Hi, Kitty. So, yeah, welcome to our session today. And so we have a pretty full session. We did ask people to submit their questions. People who are on our email list, and we got a lot of responses. So we have quite a few questions. Myself and Margaret were pruning through them or parsing through them over the last day or so, trying to get them organized into themes. And so I think we have about 20 questions to go through, and plus I'm sure some will come up during the session. So we'll do our best to organize and address all the questions that have come in. In some cases, we had to kind of group them together because there's some repetition. But again, we tried our best to cover everybody's topic. I do have to do one quick thing, and that's a request, and that's to cover a bit of a little advisory. And we do this at every webinar, our live stream. And that is that this webinar, excuse me, I have to read this out, and its contents do not constitute medical advice. It is for information purposes only. If you have a medical condition, such as osteoporosis, you should consult with your physician or another licensed healthcare professional. And that's all I have to say on that. So we can get that out of the way. So I've covered that. And Margaret, did you want to talk about anything in terms of before you start? Talk about your timer and what you want to do with the session. So I'll just kind of hand it to Margaret to take it from there.
Thanks, Richard. And thank you all for joining us from all over the globe. And it's really special. And I know it's a special day. It's a weekend day, and we should all be enjoying it. So I'm hoping that this is enjoyable for you in that you take home at least one nugget to improve your posture. This is what today's all about. So throughout our session today, there's going to be a little reminder for us to work on our posture. And so we're going to get our best posture now as you're all listening to me. Those of you who are standing, I'm going to provide you with an opening in standing that is going to help you cue, and then we're going to do the same thing in sitting. And I'm going to encourage you, every time you hear the timer, that you go back to the tips that I cover right now, and you do your very best to remain in your best posture for at least those few moments in between the Q&A. So I'm going to back up a little bit, and if I'm standing out here so that you can see my feet, those of you who are standing right now, what I'd like you to do is feel your feet. If you're sitting, I'm hoping that your feet are in contact with the floor, and that you're feeling a base of support between the base of your big toe, fifth toe, and the center of your heels. That is the triangular base and support of your posture. And then the next thing you're going to do, and if you're not feeling that, then we're going to see if shifting joints and body parts above that help you to feel more centered over your feet. Some people will say, oh, I really feel like I'm sitting back on my heels or too far forward onto the forefeet. And often that's dictated by what is happening further up. And so becoming aware of what's happening at this moment. And if you're not feeling that centeredness, then I invite you to, first of all, distribute the weight more evenly between right and left. If it's your butt cheeks that you're sitting on a firm chair, then and your feet are grounded, I also want you to evenly, as much as possible, distribute the weight through your sit bones. Now what I want you to do, think about the next joint, which is your knee joint. And my go-to when I was a teenager was to just hang out in hyperextension. And in hyperextending my knees, what ends up happening is that now all my weight is distributed on my heels. So explore what happens when you soften your knees a little bit or lock your knees back, and how that changes the weight distribution through your feet. Until you find the place where you go, okay, the weight distribution is more even through the base of the big toe, fifth toe, and the center of the heel. And then I want you to come to the pelvis, and we're going to explore the posture of the pelvis. The posture of the pelvis can go all the way from what we call an anterior pelvic tilt, so the front of the pelvis is tilting forward, to what we call a posterior pelvic tilt, where the front of the pelvis is tilting back. So if you explore that, and in sitting you can also explore just tilting the pelvis forward and back. And some of you might have conditions, if you have spinal stenosis, that you don't love tilting forward. So obviously I don't know all of your conditions, so whether it's just working through posture or any of the suggestions I'm going to make later on, please listen to your body before you listen to me. And please, if someone's told you not to do certain things, then don't do them. Just use this as advice that you can share with others that you know might be able to benefit from. So we're tilting forward and back in order to find what is referred to as your neutral. So your neutral is halfway between forward and back. So once you find your neutral, you go back to the knee position that you know gave you the best base of support. And then we still have to now deal with what's happening above. So if I had everything fixed here, I might still feel slouched if I haven't opened up and elongated. So the next posture we want to be aware of is our rib cage. And the rib cage is like a shape, like a big bell. And you want to go, oh, is that bell ringing backwards, or is it ringing forward? So if you think of the front of your rib cage as you can feel all the way underneath it. So if I tilt up like this, the bell is ringing forward, or if it tilt back like that, the bell is ringing backwards. And how the alignment and posture of my rib cage now is changing my whole alignment. And yes, you're probably going, oh my God, there's so many things. And there is, because there's so many parts to our body. So until you can be aware of what's happening in all your parts, it's hard to change your posture. Where do you want that bell to be aligned? You want it to be pretty neutral, just like you wanted your pelvis to be neutral. Because if your pelvis is out like this, it's going to change the posture of my rib cage. But it's then really hard for me to try to change my rib cage without changing my pelvis. And it's really hard for me to change my pelvis without softening my knees. So up the kinetic chain is so, like working from the feet up is so very important to help ultimately the position of your head. So if and shoulders. So since our shoulders, I'm going to work from shoulders then head and neck, because when we talk about our rib cage, well, the rib cage is the base and the home station for our shoulder blades. So if the shoulder blades are really just truly dictated by the position of the rib cage, if my rib cage is forward, my shoulder blades are now apart and my shoulders fall forward. If my rib cage is like this, then my shoulder blades are kind of squeezed back, but my head falls forward, and it's all to do with counterbalancing. So again, it's just going back to that neutral all the way up. Lots of tough things to think about, and so hopefully that gives you a little sense. So now that you've found all your neutral bits, you're going to ultimately think about neutral position and for the head and neck as though someone was pulling you up from the string right up through the back of your neck, the scruff of the neck, and you're feeling just a little bit longer, just about where my scarf meets the neck and behind. And so just really long and tall. So this is your challenge every time, be it sitting or standing, that you are elongating your posture. So,
I have audio problems, Susie. I'm just going to check. We have some audio problems, so I'm going to just insert myself here. I don't know why it's so low. Just carry on. I don't know.
so I will try to speak my very loudest.
You're going to have to boost your audio. I'm sorry,
Okay,
Margaret.
no problem.
And you shouldn't go back too far.
Okay, very good. So I will stay here and I will speak as loud as I can. And then, sorry about that. If you guys missed any of that, hopefully you felt it and you were able to do it with me in terms of elongating from your feet up. All right. So I am actually ready for questions, and because we have lots of them, and I want to make sure we get them covered.
Sorry about that, Margaret. There's some audio issues, and I've been trying to fix it. Looks like it's back now. So if you could just stay close to the camera, or sorry, to your computer there. For some reason, the audio mic is not working. So we did get a lot of questions, and I will start going through them for you.
Why can't I hear her? Sorry.
I'm sorry?
Were the questions other than why can't I hear Margaret right now? Yeah. I'm just joking, sorry.
Okay, well, now there was some audio problems before, Margaret. I'm sorry, now people are back and they can hear it. So just stay close to the computer and we'll be fine. And I'll go to the questions now. So I'll read the question and then I'll back out, just allow giving you time to go through it. So actually, the other thing we want to do, we'll go through a bunch of questions, I think, Margaret, and then I think I want to spend a few moments showing people the different resources
Around
that are
posture?
on our site and on our YouTube channel. So when we probably get back, we'll take a little break, maybe 10 questions in. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, great. So we'll start with the first question. And they're organized by theme for you. So the themes that came in, one of the themes like, well, how do I start? And some sense of direction about developing posture. And there's 2 or 3 questions in that theme. I thought they're all good, so we pulled them forward. The first question is, I'm in my late 60s. I've had bad posture since puberty. Can exercise really change things this late in the game or this late in life? Which exercises should I start with? There are so many, I get overwhelmed, and then I don't do any. So.
Okay, super, thank you. So just as the exercise we were doing, and first of all, I want to say, I'm in my early 60s, and I sure hope that exercise can always help because I don't feel like I've reached my full potential yet. So keep working at it because it's just going to get worse if you don't. So going back to one thing with posture and puberty, often comes to think of what emotionally might have been going on at that time. If that has not been dealt with, that needs to be dealt with. Especially with women, sometimes with breast development and just psychosocial, emotional factors around that. You know, correcting posture can be a bigger thing than just a physical thing. Having said that, all of the positioning that I spoke about from the feet up, spend the first month just thinking about how are my feet? You know, am I sitting always with both feet on the ground? Am I standing with weight bearing evenly through as much as possible through both feet? And then once that focus and you're comfortable with that, maybe think about the knees and work up and into the hips. And when it comes to the hips, you'll see on my YouTube channel or my posture course, when we talk about issues with anterior pelvic tilts or posterior pelvic tilts, sometimes it's not as easy as just correcting it if you have certain tight muscles. So then you actually have to address the muscles that are tight in order to help correct the posture issues.
So Margaret, I think your audio is gone. I can't hear you. So just let me check and see if my question is, can people hear me? Sorry, a quick question to the audience. Can people? Okay, Margaret, I think, okay, someone can hear the man, but not Margaret. So Margaret, you're gonna have to come upstairs and do it up here. Okay? Okay, can't hear the hubby. Okay, Margaret's gonna be with us in a moment, so I'm just gonna disengage here and we're gonna run it from here. So you're gonna see us working together.
Hey.
Okay.
Okay, no mic. You don't need my mic now?
No.
Just, okay, hi everyone, so sorry. All right.
Okay, so I'll go back. So can everybody hear us now? Quick question. Okay, so I can be heard. I'm assuming,
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Okay, so we're assuming we're live and we're good. So we're going to go back to questions. And again, my apologies. Now you get to see us work together and see if we actually truly work together. Okay, see how long this lasts.
We were talking about, we were yin and yang this morning. So.
Yeah, I think okay, forget it. My normal posture is one of rounded, I gotta stand up straight here, of rounded shoulders. What can I do to develop and maintain better posture? Margaret, what exercises can I do to improve my posture?
So one of the biggest things I find with rounded shoulders, this, once you've worked from the feet up, which was what I was discussing earlier, so sorry if you missed that, but being aware of your foot posture, working up from the foot posture all the way through to, softening your knees to make sure, and then finding your neutral pelvis, and then the rib cage positioning. So working all the way up, because if your rib cage positioning is incorrect, then the shoulder blades that are resting on the rib cage are going to be impacted. So if your rib cage is like this, then you can try pulling your shoulders back all you want, but until you correct your rib cage, you won't correct your scapular position. The scapula, or shoulder blades, are what being attached to the shoulder, and where most of the muscles of the shoulder live, will greatly dictate what your shoulder position is. Now, having said all that, most of us hang out here all day long, whether it's on our laptops, whether it's gardening, cooking, all of those things. And what that does, it tightens our chest muscles. So if it's purely just from tightness, then imagining that the wall is the floor and doing some stretch where before you get out of bed, where you just lie flat like this, just to elongate the chest muscles. And then if you go, oh, that feels so good, but after a month you want to elongate more, you could put a rolled towel behind your back, or soft, small pillow, just to open yourself up a little bit more. Lovely. You can change the angles of your arms when you're laying on your back, because that's going to change which pectoral muscles, from pec major to pec minor, and all of which are muscles that pull you forward. And then even elongation stretches are really lovely, because that gets your latissimus dorsi, which also pulls you forward. Okay, so those things would be helpful.
Okay, great. Okay, I think someone mentioned that they didn't, because I unfortunately cut you off, didn't get parts of the first question, but I think you covered it there. Is that correct? You did a bit of a reiteration?
I tried to, yeah.
Okay, great. So let's go to the next question, and this is the final in starting up. I hunch my shoulders a lot. I need tips to relax my shoulders down and back. So they're looking for relaxation tips.
Oh, okay. So one that I really like, if you find that, throughout the day you're just getting tight. So I'm assuming you mean hunch up and then you're feeling tight. So one I like to do is just taking a breath in as the shoulders come up. You can all join me on this, and then exhale as you rotate shoulder blades down and back. So I'm not a big fan of going forward, because again, we hang out forward all the time. So let's all just do that together. Taking a nice, and you can do it too.
I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. Of course I'm going to do it.
Inhale, shoulder blades up towards your ears. Exhale, bringing them back and around towards your spine. And as you let go, so I said one last one. And just let all the tension out at the same time. So that's a nice thing to do to help the shoulders relax.
That was very relaxing because I'm getting kind of stressed out by the audio and all that. And so
I know.
now I'm calmer. Okay.
Good timing on that question.
I know. Someone call me Steve. My name is Richard, by the way, so no offense. Okay. Actually, this is a good question. Actually, they're all good, but here's an interesting one on cueing. So they're asking, I focus on this. I didn't write this one, by the way. This is not my question, Margaret. It does sound like me. I focus on the task object at hand and forget about my posture. You know what I mean? Do you have tips, Margaret, on how to maintain a focus on good posture while you're involved in those challenging activities? Thank you very much.
So that is a really good one.
That's a good question.
Because they're not all married to somebody like me to keep going around and around all day long.
The posture police, I call her. Yeah.
Having something like a little chime that goes off every few minutes. I know it might seem annoying, but for some of my clients, I've actually had them put the timers on their stove just so they would actually physically get up and leave their work. You know, they have to walk down the hallway, come back, and it just gives them a chance to reset their posture. And unfortunately, as they get, engrossed in their work, they will start to get into a posture that might not be their optimum posture. But again, they can get these little breaks. That's really, really helpful. Another time, sometimes I'll have individuals use a door frame and say, okay, when you go through that particular door frame, I want you to go up against the door frame and realign your very best posture and then walk away with that best posture. So kind of whatever works for you. And I don't know, with all the times that I've encouraged you to have your best posture.
Yeah.
And I'm always in my body the way you're always in your head.
Yeah.
So is there any tip that you would want to share?
Another one is, since I work at the computer a lot, another thing is to put a sticky note on the top right-hand corner of the screen. And so it's just kind of like, because your eyes will glance up periodically and you go, oh, that's my reminder to come back into the body and body awareness. I'm also have had, as you know, some issues with some back pain. And so I think I mentioned this too, it might not work for everybody, but the pain can get pretty severe. And so it's a reminder to not do that. And I know what I need to do to kind of avoid that pain in the future, whether it be certain types of exercise activities to undertake, or just basically my pelvic position is kind of my pelvic tilt is my Achilles heel, if you want to call it that for me. I think everybody has their own postural Achilles heel.
Exactly, which is what I was trying to share at the very beginning.
Yeah, that's a very important thing. I think it varies across the board for people. So
I will go back through that at the very end.
Yeah, we're going to do that. Yeah. But in fact, we're going to cover it a bit when we get into the resources. I think it's something I'll bring it up and then you can emphasize it. I think we can move on to the next question. And how are we doing timing-wise here? We're 25 minutes in. We're making good progress. Okay. Good stuff. Okay. So here's a question I see often, Margaret, so I'm going to bring it up. And it did come up here. So I was pleased that someone put up, in fact, two people brought this question, so we just collapsed it into this one. Margaret, what is your view on posture correctors, braces, and by age or any kind of other dimension? So what are your thoughts on bracing, these correctors that you see out there, vis-a-vis posture?
Okay, there are so many out there. And there's so many out there because people have such poor posture. And unfortunately, they were exactly that. They were a brace. And so as a physical therapist over the years, I would give braces and issue braces and work with people with braces when they were coming out of rehabilitation, when they, were recovering from spinal injuries, serious motor vehicle accidents. But today, because everybody's postural muscles are so weak, these braces are being encouraged, marketed, and really taking advantage of everybody's weakness. So the brace itself will actually make you weaker because you rely on it. It's actually doing what the muscle should do. If, however, and this is sometimes the case, if you've had a compression fracture, if you've had a disc herniation, if you have had some traumatic injury where you go, I really need some support. Then I'm like, okay, I'd rather you be active with the support, but then you need to gradually wean yourself from that support. Because if not, you're choosing to live with that support. And a lot of these braces and supports, or you have to be careful about the ones that come in under your armpits like this, because a lot of the nerves that come from our neck actually go through the armpit, which is why we don't use crutches up too high, because it could put damage on those nerves, and those nerves go down into the hand.
Yeah.
So I have a big issue with them. There's a few posture correctors that I do like. They tend to be a little bit more expensive. I did try a few of the original ones that didn't. They seem to work well depending on the type of posture correction you needed. But you could put either on your bra strap or on your. Do you remember the ones that? And they would buzz. You know, if you went into a slouch posture, they would give you a little buzz. Those ones I'm more in favor of, because that's that little cueing. That's like having me go around going, you know, that little poke.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm better about those posture correctors.
I feel like those dogs in the fence, and the dog has that wire thing, that little. So this was like living with you.
She's coming. I hear her coming.
Here comes. Yeah.
Better sit up tall.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So I think what you're saying is important. So you don't want it to become a dependency, and in some cases it's justified because of the pain and suffering that people are going through, which is understandable. But you want to wean them out there to get them to be using their own muscle system.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And sometimes it's just being able to sit a little bit longer, stand a little bit taller. Over time, that will improve. And sometimes it also involves strengthening or stretching of the right muscles to get you through those steps.
Right. Okay. You may have noticed that I'm taller than Margaret, and hence the kind of the imbalance here. So sorry about that. We're doing this impromptu. So let's check the comments. Okay, well, I'll get back to that. Let's keep moving here. We'll go back to some of the questions because there's some live questions coming in. We'll try to get back to those. Okay, here's another theme that's showing up, and there's several questions around forward head posture. So you do have that people who have that elevated posture kind of pointing forward. So Margaret, what tip or tips do you recommend we use to remind ourselves, again, a similar kind of question from board, to straighten up to avoid the forward head posture? So I don't know if you want to answer it the same way, or is there some unique things here with forward head
I would
posture?
say it's a little bit unique in that, I mean, if you've checked all the, the reasons, in terms of your pelvic, I'm assuming a lot of forward head posture happens more in sitting. So I'm going to use sitting as an example. And if you're sitting evenly on your butt cheeks and you're thinking then, that right and left is nice and even, and then you're elongating your rib cage away from your pelvis so that your rib cage is in a more neutral position and your shoulder blades in. So if all of that is, sitting where it should be, then you have to ask yourself, well, why am I doing this? Are you doing that because your eyes are getting a little weaker, that you're using reading glasses for computer, or you're using, you're not using the right eyewear for the task? And sometimes, and this was one of my clients, so if she's listening, anyways, earlier this week, and God bless her, 85, spunky as heck, but she's just like constantly, she's telling me that she's addicted to some games that she plays on her iPad. And so when I ask her, how does she hold her iPad in her chair? Of course, it's held down here. Well, of course, with the forward head posture that she has, it's not going to get a whole lot better when she's spending 6 hours of her day down here. So I'm like, okay, can you get a stand for your iPad and then keep it so that you can play your game here and rest your arm on a pillow or something for support. So allowing your head to be aligned, in such a way that you're adjusting the environment to help that is huge. Resting your elbows on a pillow to support the book so the book's not down here. There's reading stands. There's so many ways to help that. As a cue unto itself, is maybe be aware of your very best posture and what it is, if it's just simply your laptop or computer, and kind of give yourself a sense of what is the distance between my nose and my computer. So if that distance starts to go forward, maybe you go, oh shoot, you'll need, because you need something physical to remind you, and hopefully it's not always just, oh, my neck's starting to bug me. So
I think a lot of this comes back to the body awareness issue. So
yeah.
got it. Okay. Let's move on. Actually, you mentioned glasses, and someone did have glasses questions, and I am a glasses expert. So I thought this is pretty interesting. So this might need a bit of explanation because we were talking about this in terms of understanding. So I'll ask the question, and then we'll probably want to discuss what we think is happening here. Okay, I think I wear glasses with progressive lenses. Hopefully everyone understands the progressive part where it's, designed for a certain view at this level, and then it gets for nearsighted or for distance, and then close, it kind of progresses down. So it's a progressive lens. I think I naturally look to the ground more whenever I'm wearing them. So I think it's when they, and does this cause posture problems? I think what the person is doing is they walk, they kind of look down. They're probably looking down because they can't just drop their eyes. As they drop their eyes, the lower part of the progressive is actually optimized for here, closer to reading. It's not optimized for the ground. So therein lies the dilemma. So if they're doing this and kind of maintaining good posture, they can't see down clearly. So it's still probably blurred out. So what they have to do to compensate, they have to like tilt down to get the view up here to look down. I think that's what's happening with this individual. So that was my interpretation, and I think it's actually a pretty accurate interpretation now, knowing what I know. So that being the case, what is the approach? What should we do here?
Yeah, so for this individual, it's actually even just more, not even just concerned about posture with progressives, but in the balance live stream, we talked about how progressives are a big issue in terms of fall prevention or fall causing, because the depth, you can't accurately tell how deep the next step is. And so it is, I can imagine, you want to look down and make sure you feel safe. So it would definitely be a discussion with your optometrist and say, if you can afford another pair of glasses, one that you would wear not when you're reading, but when you're out and about and walking, and that would be definitely the safest thing to do. So,
yeah. So I think if I can add something to that, it's as I understand it, cataracts and cataract change out of the, I think it's lens refractive. It's actually an insertion of a lens into the eye. And if progressive is an option offered to people, they need to be, I think, aware of this issue, because once you put those things in there, you can't change them out like anything. That's what you're living with. So, and also sometimes people optimize when they put these cataract lenses in, one for distance, one for closer, and that can also be a bit of a dilemma. So,
and it was, and when I was playing pickleball with somebody last week, and I was going, do you have a depth perception issue? Not to be rude, because she kept missing the ball, but she kept missing the ball. So she did say that she had the lens replaced, and one for distance and one to optimize closeness, but maybe they did, but they didn't share with her the functional impact of what that would have on her. So a lot of things to think about when purchasing progressives and or future lens changes.
Particularly around cataracts, so just be aware of that. Okay, so moving to another part of the body, we're going to talk about the pelvic floor, and very, very important. It shows up all the time. What is the best pelvic position when walking to help with the pelvic floor function and prevent any stress incontinence?
So the nice thing is that your best posture is not just the best thing you could do for your neck and for your shoulders and for your respiration, and lung expansion, but it's also the best thing you could do for your pelvic floor. So it's just looking to optimize your posture.
Right, good.
Right.
Water. Okay.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, it's a very practical one. We eat, right? So, which most people do. A few times a day. Okay, so this is a good question. So the person comes in with, we bend, I think she bends. We bend with our necks, I think she's talking about in a global sense, but with our necks, heads, necks, and upper back when eating certain foods. I've been working on not bending, but it's a little difficult unless I bring the dish and fork up to me like that. So thanks a bunch. And that's a question from Jane.
All right. Well, remember in California, we had really good friends, and they were of Asian descent, and I loved it. They had, big meals that everybody would take little servings from into little bowls, and the chopsticks were used up here. Yeah. And so they always maintained great posture. We noticed that when we traveled in China many years ago, so generally speaking, when it comes to food, the worst ones that make you go forward, are your soups, your spaghettis, the kind of slurpy, sloppy things. that, you don't want to get all over your shirt. And so certainly you could do like the Chinese do, or the Asians do, and bring it up to your mouth. There's nothing wrong with doing that. The other thing, usually this is an issue, and in the years when I worked with more younger people with a lot of disc herniations, it's really painful to go forward, and you will further herniate or aggravate your back. So people would eat standing up, and they would also eat like hinging from their hips and not round. Or if they sat, they would limit their sitting to 20 minutes. So again, not to overly compress the disc, but also they would use, under recommendation, just as support in the lumbar spine to help optimize that. But again, bring the food up to them. So that is the best thing.
Yeah, man, interesting. Yeah,
we need to change our societal habits.
I know you're working on it, Margaret. I don't know if it's going to work. You've been doing it for as long as I've known you.
I'm working.
I know you're working. I know you're trying.
Decades.
You're trying to change society, and more power to you. Okay, another topic. Okay, actually we had 3 or 4 questions on this one, so we had to try to collapse it into one. But it's actually quite important. We see it often. So I have scoliosis. And I have severe osteoporosis, so they have a double bill to deal with there. Is posture handled any differently with these conditions, between these 2 conditions? Does one merit one over the other, and are there different strategies? And I think that's what the person's alluding to. There was some other questions, I think, around scoliosis. I think we tried to bring them in. So I know you spent quite a bit of time thinking about this one and doing some research. So I'm going to punt it off to you, Margaret.
Yeah. So I'm going to tackle just the 2 conditions, osteoporosis and scoliosis, because both of those conditions actually are seen more often as we get older. So, most of you that follow me know and will follow me because of the low bone density or osteoporosis. But scoliosis is also something that develops more as we age. And so the optimum posture and optimally strengthening all of the paraspinal muscles along our spine is really the very best thing you could do for both those conditions. Because, the studies are showing that in order to minimize, I want to say, age-related, to how the studies put it, age-related changes in the spine, of which scoliosis, osteoporosis, and the third one is osteoarthritis, are the most common age-related changes of the spine. The best thing you could do is strengthen your paraspinal muscles. And the paraspinal muscles, if you turn around, Richard, okay, and shirt up, okay, are, if you feel the spine, then you go, lift your chest up more. Thank you, better posture. I can't see Richard's paraspinals very well here. Okay, thanks. Little babies.
I didn't know this was happening.
The paraspinals are, I can't see mine.
No, not yours, please.
Okay.
Keep your shirt on.
But when you put your fingers on your spine, like if you feel your spine back here, and then you activate your back muscles and you arch as much as you can, you should feel like a little ridge of muscles on either side of your spine. And so all the extension muscles or extension exercises that I ask you guys to do, and a lot of you go, don't love doing those, but you see babies do it, from age 4 months, and they're lying on their tummy and they're lifting up and lifting up and lifting up over and over again so that they can strengthen those paraspinal muscles because they want to be upright human beings. And that's how genetically they're programmed to strengthen. That's what I need you guys to do. Sometimes you're not strong enough to start there, so there, you go to beginner exercises and gradually start to build that with your posture exercises so that you can lift against gravity. Because we live in a gravity world. And, if you all move to the moon, you'll be fine. But you live here, and so we need you to be strong to be able to hold your spine up against gravity. And so when I did, on terms of scoliosis, I did call my niece, who is 29, and last week. And she's so sweet. Anyway, she has scoliosis and just had a baby about 8 months ago. And, I said, any tips coming on to this live stream? Because she knows scoliosis more than I do because she lives with it. And she says, Margaret, when you have scoliosis, you don't know what it's like to be even on both feet or even on both butt cheeks because you're not. She goes, but you know what your best feels like. And so to try to always be your best. And then she goes, and regardless, and she's worked with a number of professionals and some that have guided her too. My expertise is not scoliosis, but she says they all guide you on being as strong as you can, keeping your strength. Don't be complacent with maintaining good strength, but keep building it. Because as we get older with a straight spine, gravity only impacts us into a kyphosis, the kyphosis being a rounding of the back. But with somebody with scoliosis, gravity impacts the whole curve. And so if your curve is one way, you're going to be, it's going to impact it more and more unless you build that strength. You remember who the runner was, one of the fastest runners in the world with scoliosis. And he actually, Usain Bolt?
I think Usain actually did have scoliosis.
That's and true. He just had to really work hard on his spine.
That's true.
So that that wasn't going to be his weak point. So, you can do great things and be the fastest person in the world despite scoliosis. But you do have to work on it harder than individuals who just deal with one plane of gravity challenge. So.
Okay. So Margaret, we're about halfway through the questions. We have about 10 or 15 minutes. I thought what we'd do is just to kind of do a little bit of a break here. Okay. I think we should just quickly go through some of the resources.
Okay, I'm going to look at some of the other questions and try to group them.
What we'll do is, first of all, in the description box in this video, this live stream, if you kind of look down at it, you'll see some resources I put in there. I'll cover them here. So just spend a few minutes on things. I really encourage people to use our YouTube channel. We have about 500 or actually more videos, I think, something like that. And go to what you do is you go to, if you're trying to find your way around, I mean, they're organized here on the home page of our YouTube channel by category. So we have workouts, we have walking, we have weight bearing, getting stronger. Posture, by the way, there's your posture. So there's a posture playlist here, which I think is the one that's linked in. So, explore that. If there's specific topics that come up, and some will show up later, go to let me just make sure. If I go to videos, and you will see the videos just get then distributed in their full glory, all of them. What you do is you kind of jump across here and you go to the search box. And if you're looking for one on, I think there was one asking about
sitting posture. That's coming up, right?
Sitting, but there's actually one, if I could use an example, was children, like picking up a child. Someone asked it, bring it up. And we've done a video on that called How to Lift a Child with No Back Pain. And by the way, here's this young kid you talked about. We have a 46-second video of a child, and you see the paraspinal in action. So it's just a little video we did 12 years ago. But we did this one about 9 months ago on lifting children, and Margaret went through different sized children. We had borrowed a couple of kids from the neighbors. Of course, we gave them back. I happily gave them back. And then we did Margaret did a bunch of scenarios. Another one is, someone asked about how to tie shoes. So if you do that, and you'll see tying shoes. This is me. You get to see me and my terrible acting, but it's actually a pretty good video. I wish it had done better, but so be it. So that is one source of information. The other one is actually to look at our Perfect Posture course. And again, that is linked in the description box. If I go in and look at that course, this is, how to achieve your perfect posture. I'll just flip through it here. There's a bit of a sales job here. This is the page where you go to buy it, but it does lay out, what you're going to get, and it breaks it up into a real structure. I mean, there's an introduction, there's some backgrounds in terms of playing your video, but here, the posture fundamental is really important. So we encourage people, and these are all videos of Margaret doing everything at almost every level of the anatomy, starting from the toe to the head, the pelvic positioning, the shoulder blade positioning, the more on shoulder blade stabilization, spine strength, neutral spine. It's just a step-by-step process to understand where your posture is being influenced by different parts of your body. Then basically we get into, now you have the fundamentals understanding of your body and build up that body awareness through this. Then you move on to reinforcing your posture. And we start talk about how to pull it together. We also show you how to do a self-assessment. Many of you can't get it or can't afford to get to a therapist, but we still encourage you to go to a therapist. But if in the cases you can do some level of self-assessment. Again, that's a video we walk through, and then we provide guidelines. And now we're ready to kind of move into what you should do exercise-wise. And we have basically the guidelines here, and then we go through the stretching exercise. We have videos on every one of them, and we have the strengthening exercises. And if you want to even take it to the next step, we have advanced posture strengthening exercises. We have a little bonus section on opening up your posture and some stretches you can do. And then we talk about some of the consequences. I mean, without being kind of down about it, we do show some of the issues people encounter, which we've heard through this live stream. And then we get into the day-to-day activities. And so this basically is taking what you've learned, the strengthening you're doing, and now bringing it into everything that you do, including mowing the lawn and all those different things. And then you see the small child left here. And then we conclude. So again, it's a resource. I know it's a paid resource, but it is curated and put together for people who really just want to focus and kind of get it together. If I go to our website, if you scan here, our website is going to go through a big change, going through a major redesign, but we have health guides, which we are going to keep. And there is one on posture. So if you go to that one, and you'll see that we have a section on posture and a blurb and description of it. But we also have a link down to all of the blog posts inside the website that are associated with posture, like posture age and dowager hump and things like that. So, and we will continue to build this out. So it's another, I think, important resource. And then finally, what's very important is don't overlook exercise for better bones. It has a full chapter dedicated to posture because it is one of the core elements of osteoporosis exercise. And you can either get it on our page, and again, the description is in the description box. And of course, it's up on Amazon where you can buy it either in Kindle or a print format. So that's an overview of the resources that are available. It's both paid and free. We encourage you to use those things. We understand some people are in circumstances where they can't afford, or in some cases they buy the book and they go to their therapist with it. So we find all kinds of variety of things there. So that's a bit of a thing. Anything you want to add to my little whirlwind tour of the resources?
Just thank you for reminding me about all the stuff we produce, because sometimes I forget, and then I feel like I'm trying to give you guys everything, and just I didn't remember how much time and how many resources we put in that posture course. And I'm trying to say in 30 seconds what one of the modules takes nine minutes to do. So,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now I'm going to,
Right.
No.
So you don't have to say everything in 12 minutes. It's basically all up in the posture course. But
Okay.
Okay, so I'll turn that off, and now we can kind of move back to the questions for people. So the next topic is sitting, which is obviously one of the issues where people start encountering some posture issues. So we'll go through these questions. There are quite a few questions about sitting. We try to collapse them as best we can. We might have to speed up to this, and I apologize. We have to give this short change so we can get to some of the other ones.
So sitting, can I just go right into this
Yeah,
one?
go ahead,
the car,
Margaret.
because it's...
This is the car. So
Yeah. With the car, it's kind of tough because you're stuck with the car seat that it comes with. And so my best advice is try to buy a car based on the car seat almost. As long as the safety features are what you need. That is how I picked my car that when we've had it now 12 years. And it is because it was like had the best postural features that didn't push my head forward. Because you can't, once you have a headrest that pushes you forward, then you're going to have to start making changes to the car seat itself. So I'm going to assume if you have the best car seat for you, then one cue that you could do to help you sit better in the car is to adjust your rearview mirror. A lot of people will adjust the rearview mirror when they're tired and they're, kind of sitting slumped. Rather, get your very best posture, and that's using your lumbar support or creating a lumbar support or adjusting the seat, as best as possible for you. But then with that very best posture, you're thinking really long and tall, then you adjust your rearview mirror so that as you start to slump, and you look in the rearview mirror, you get, oops, I got to come back up. So that's just my suggestion when in a car.
Great. Okay.
People say it works.
Yep. Good. I'm not going to say any more because I just got a comment from somebody saying being married and being in business together is very challenging. Suggest couples therapy for us. Why is Richard talking about
We do it all the time.
Yeah, we are always in therapy. Okay, let's move on.
Suggested by your daughter, who's a therapist.
Yes, exactly.
It is good.
I have osteopenia in my spine. What sort of cushion should I bring with me to places where I know the seating will be hard?
Mm-hmm. So here I'm not too sure if you are sitting on the cushion or it's behind you. So if it's just a cushion that you're sitting on, there's actually really nice camping ones that you can bring because they will sit, kind of, you just turn the switch and they inflate so you can easily fit them in a bag. That way they're always kind of with you, like those, folding grocery bags. Yeah. But however, with osteopenia, not so much I hear, but with osteoporosis and vertebral compression fractures, sometimes your spine gets really tender. and therefore the hard seat is an issue. And that's where sometimes, and again, one of those inflatable pillows works. You don't have to inflate it as much, just to provide some cushioning between your spine and the back of the seat. So I hope that helps.
Good. Let's put a few more sitting ones because it's a big topic.
We sit a lot.
We do sit a lot. Okay. How to maintain posture while relaxing. So watching TV, reading, etc. Most living room furniture, I think this is one of the things, encourages slouching, but is not very relaxing sitting in a wooden straight back chair. So basically, these cushy chairs, how do we deal with that?
Yeah, it's a big issue because they're making furniture that is not ergonomically designed for us. They're huge for a lot of people, they're too deep, and so if you have chairs that are just too big and too deep for you, you're going to have to build something around, your own size and your own alignment. And unfortunately, getting a chair that is more ergonomically suited for you usually is fairly expensive. I have not found one, so that's why I end up sitting on the floor a lot. And I was going to share with you guys the chairs that I bought, since our kids always say there's not enough places to sit. And so I ended up getting little meditation benches. And that was challenging for them to sit tall with those little meditation benches. But, they all took the challenge and worked at it over the Christmas holidays, and hopefully they're thinking about it back home. But it is, to try not to use the chair, like to just sit on the edge of the chair, work on your postural muscles, is a problem of our society right now, in that, people never sat as long as we do, and we're just spending too much time sitting, and it's weakening our postural muscles. And so I would say it doesn't have to be a hard wooden chair, but it has to be something that's going to support you in its best alignment. And if the chair tilts back like this, then it's going to bring you into a forward head posture. All the park benches do. So you definitely want to avoid any chair that's going to tilt you back, because if you're looking at something here, it's a problem. So I do have a couple of, under our posture ones, a couple of things on sitting that's worth watching, because I do go through the details of how to optimize what you have.
Yeah, those are on our YouTube channel, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we do. If you just do a search on sitting.
Or maybe on our posture blog too.
Probably, somewhere between the two. We actually have probably more content on our YouTube channel than our blog, because our YouTube channel is ahead content-wise, but we'll get it over. I think I'm going to we'll move from sitting. We covered pretty good. There's a few more questions, but we're short of time. So let's move to sleeping positions. Shows up. There's 2 questions around that. This is the longer one. I most often sleep on my side. So as a side sleeper, and find that my shoulders curl around to the front when I awaken. Is there a way I can prevent this? I think what they're doing is they're curling in like this. Okay.
Yeah. So obviously once you're asleep, it's really hard to, kind of control that. And it's more important that you're comfortable sleeping and you have a good night's sleep. But if you wake up and you notice you're here, then my suggestion that I mentioned earlier about lying on your back and just stretching out, or stretching out like this, if you can minimize the pillow that's behind your head at that point, to as little as possible, just so that you kind of bring yourself back into a more neutral alignment to start your day, as opposed to, so it's a great question, because you don't want to start your day here, but rather, at the very least, if you don't have time and you're just going to get up, to wake up and to stretch and to bring yourself into a little bit of extension to get that perspective back into your body.
Right. Okay. Actually, so people are asking, I think this is actually a pretty good question. Margaret, what is your sleeping position? So what have you adopted?
So I used to be a side sleeper, but as I got older and started reading more about posture, I thought, okay, I'm going to transition to sleeping on my back, which I have done. I do need a long pillow that I use, very thin, but underneath my thighs and lower legs, which also, because I have a genetic predisposition to varicose veins, is really helpful for my circulation. So that's really comfortable. But I went from a pillow that was maybe 2 inches high to 1.5 inches, an inch, and then one of my clients gave me a really thin pillow. I went to that, and now I don't use a pillow. As long as it's a memory foam, because the memory foam will come up and support my neck. Otherwise, when I'm visiting, I'll just use like a rolled hand towel underneath my neck. And that makes it like really great when I'm traveling, because I don't worry about the pillows anymore, because everybody has hand towels that I can use under my neck. But that's my posture.
Right. Okay, so sleeping. So we covered a pretty wide range. Now we're going to move on to another part of the anatomy, the feet and stance, standing. I tend to stand with my body tilted a little to the front of my foot, so a bit forward. Any tips on how I can learn to avoid this tilting?
Yeah, so it's probably when you guys didn't hear me at the beginning, but starting your posture actually, and starting good posture starts from the ground up. So even when you're in a chair, you want to have your feet touching the ground. You want to be feeling, both feet flat. If your feet are not flat on the ground, and you know then that you've crossed one leg or you've hinged one side, this is why and I'll see this at the pickleball court more than anywhere, and you'll see people hang out, on one hip like this or the other hip. And if you look at what that does in terms of the spine and the alignment, there's no wonder that people are getting scoliosis, because they take that from the pickleball court to then they're sitting like this because they've shortened certain structures on one side and lengthened structures on the other side, and that's where the body feels comfortable. So those structures, then the body wants to be straight, and it's going to align, the spine's going to be crooked, and that's going to lead to scoliosis. So going all the way back to the feet, start with getting that weight bearing. And you're like, how do you do it? Well, you have to play with your knees. Is it because you're locking your knees? Usually that locking your knees throws the center of gravity back. So usually that takes your weight more onto your heels. So it's maybe less likely that. But then what's happening with pelvic position? Sometimes if your pelvic position is too far forward, it is going to throw your weight forward to the balls of your feet more. So then you have to maybe play with that and be more neutral, or something up the chain, whether it's your rib position. So it's usually something where you're higher up in your body, holding your body forward, be it head or shoulders, and you're feeling it through your feet. So use that as your cue. Once you've determined what it is, and then you do the things that need to happen to correct it. But it's great that your feet are giving you some feedback, and use that as your cue to make those corrections.
Right. We only have a few more minutes, so I'm going to try to respect people's time. This is on strength, and I thought this is an important question. I'm 76, I have osteoporosis, and I'm already developing that hump in my back, the kyphotic. Is there any way to stop this and reverse it, Margaret?
Mm-hmm. So again, this is going back to, when we develop the hump being a kyphosis, and that is going to shorten certain muscles and then lengthen muscles, which will weaken them. So we always have to do the stretching first, because otherwise we're fighting against, strengthening before stretching, we're just double fighting. And so you do the stretching first and then the strengthening. And it all depends on your energy and how much time and energy you have to put into it. But if you can progressively work on the endurance of those muscles, then yes, you can improve. And at the very least, maintain and not let it get worse.
Okay. This is an important, I'm going to do two more, then we're going to need to wrap up, Margaret. So we're really running. How can I maintain my best posture throughout the day? Actually, this is my last question, then I'm going to pull in a comment. How can I best maintain my posture throughout the day? I suffer from kyphosis due to many vertebral compression fractures, do regular exercises for my compressive vertebrae. My back is achy and tired as the day progresses. So this is...
okay, so I hope my sister-in-law is listening to this, because she would fit into, maybe she doesn't have many, but I know there's at least one. And when I went to visit her, she kept going back and taking a rest in her chair. And I was like, you should just go and lie down flat. Unload, decompress your spine. That's would allow you to stretch your chest and then start anew when you come up again. But for a lot of people, they don't like getting in and out of bed, or they feel like they're leaving the crowd. But it's actually the best thing you could do is to not wait till your posture gets worse, but go, okay, I'm going to see, can I go 2 hours? And if you can't go 2 hours, then make it every hour and a half. But take that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes to decompress your spine, so that you can give those postural muscles, a fresh go for the next hour and a half. That would be the best thing I would suggest you to do. Great. And see if you can build from that. Great.
I'm going to wrap up with this final question, which is from Joyce. And it is this recorded anywhere? And the answer is yes. So what I'm going to do is, it is recorded on the YouTube page. So if you go to the home page, and over here you'll see home, You see videos. Live is where you want to go. So if you go to live, you see the pre-recorded versions of the flexibility and the prevention. So when we shut this down, which will be in a few minutes, and it takes a bit of processing time because it's live, it will be recorded. You can play back anytime you want. So with that, I want to thank everybody. We had lots of good comments and participation. Very much appreciate your time. We tried to cover as much material as we could. There was lots of questions. You want to wrap it up there, Margaret?
So I want you all to end this session thinking about your alignment and your posture, going really tall from your feet. Soften your knees. Think about lengthening the space between your ribs and your pelvis. And then keep thinking long through your spine so the crown of your head is reaching up to your spine. And with that, just take it throughout the day. Be patient with correcting your posture. It does take time for your body to go, oh, you know, that feels a little bit better. Because you're changing things, and change is hard even on muscles and joints. And so be patient with yourself, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.